By 1948, the Pacific Northwest experienced a power shortage. The Korean War fueled defense industries, including energy-intensive aluminum production in the Pacific Northwest. A flood on the Columbia River in 1948 prompted the U.S. government to authorize the Army Corps of Engineers to develop a dam at Priest Rapids. Money from Congress for the project did not materialize. In July of 1952, the Grant County PUD filed an application with the Federal Power Commission for a permit to investigate building a dam at the Priest Rapids site. The little PUD, which had grown to include over 5,000 customers, did not have the revenue to pay several $100 million for a new dam, but that didn't stop them. Priest Rapids Dam was financed by long-term revenue bonds retired through the sale of power. This bond issue was the largest ever offered in the United States. No tax money or government appropriations were used in construction. After completing site studies in 1954, Harza Engineering recommended 2 low dams instead of 1 high one at Priest Rapids. On November 4, 1955, the Federal Power Commission issued the Grant County PUD a 50-year license to construct and operate the Priest Rapids Dam. The PUD purchased the former Hanford Irrigation Company power plant and demolished it to make way for the new Priest Rapids Dam. On July 9, 1956, Merritt, Chapman and Scott was awarded a contract. Work began 2 months later on the first dam. Within weeks, trailer courts sprang up in the desert. In the summer of 1956, the town of Mattawa, 8 miles north of the dam site, grew from a dusty hideaway to a bustling little metropolis, serving the needs of construction workers. The construction of Priest Rapids Dam was a coup of monumental proportions for the public utility district, farmers of the Columbia Basin, and the power purchasers whose customers would benefit from a new source of power in the vibrant and growing Pacific Northwest. Construction at Priest Rapids began during the low water season. Pete White came to work for Merritt, Chapman and Scott in February 1958 as a crane operator.
Basically, building a dam requires you to move the river. This sounds a little incongruous, I know, but you do. We actually move the river from one side to the other side. We dry up a section, work on that, move it over here, and work on the other section, and so forth. The powerhouse was always dry. The spillway we built in 2 sections, and we actually moved the river from side to side to get around that.
Steel sheet piling was driven into the riverbed, creating a temporary cofferdam, enclosing a 38-acre area for construction of the powerhouse.
A cofferdam is a temporary dam, and what we used down here were steel plates. They're about 60 feet long, and they interlocked on each side, and you build them in a circle. And what we did out there on the west side, we built a temporary cofferdam out of wooden timbers to slow the water down. And then after we got that built, then we went back in and built the other cofferdam out of the steel plates, because then we wouldn't have to put up that rush of water trying to get through there.
Moving a river was tough and dangerous work. A cofferdam failure could be disastrous. The closest port city where heavy equipment, parts, and supplies could be shipped to the construction site was over 200 miles away. A bridge was built to accommodate equipment that came in on rail cars along the west side of the river. 15 Euclid Model 63 trucks with 14.5 cubic yard dump bodies transported the rock and gravel. Material from Priest Rapids Dam would fill 202,438 trucks, each holding 16 cubic yards. Lined up bumper to bumper, they would have stretched for 1,150 miles. Construction started at bedrock. Potholes, cracks, and fracture zones were cleaned out before final clearing with air-water jets. Foundation basalt was then covered with a layer of thick grout. A huge aggregate storage and concrete mixing plant operated on the west bank of the river. Portland cement arrived by the trainload and was mixed according to exacting standards. On April 25, 1957, Governor Albert Rossellini, Senator Henry Jackson, and Senator Warren Magnuson presided at the ceremony before the first pour of concrete.
This dam is a tribute to the determination of the PUD here in this county and the PUDs in this state to see to it that we keep pace with our power requirements. I'm frank to say that this type of undertaking should be a federal response.
More than 844,000 cubic yards of concrete and over 45,000 tons of reinforcing steel went into the construction of the dam. Concrete was set in layered pours. Surveyors placed tacks where pours would be made. Concrete curing took 7 to 14 days. The concrete had to be kept at 50 degrees or above for 3 days. Every concrete pour was inspected. By February 1958, 1,479 men were employed, making an average of $3.50 an hour. Many of these men were experienced hands who had worked at Grand Coulee or Boulder Dam. The heat and wind that blew through the river channel slowed, but never stopped construction. All 10 generating units at Priest Rapids Dam were operational by July 1961, several months before their scheduled completion. Over 1,000 people attended the dedication of Priest Rapids Dam. Luther Hodges, Secretary of Commerce, was the main speaker. Another speaker, 8-year-old Lenora Salazzi, remembers that day.
But by the time that day came, I had it memorized. I had it all memorized because that's part of the teaching. You remember everything you're taught. I had to just get up there, like my mom would say. She'd say, you got to go up there with dignity and honor. You got to show them that who you are, what you're saying, you mean what you're saying, because this is what your elders are saying.
Her father and uncles had signed an agreement with the Grant County PUD that would allow them to continue practicing their religion at a longhouse near the tail race of Priest Rapids Dam. On March 19, 1959, bids were advertised for the construction of the second dam, 18 miles upriver. The dam was named Wanapum in honor of the small band of native people that had occupied the surrounding area since time immemorial. The Wanapum people continue to live at their ancestral village alongside the tail race of Priest Rapids Dam. A construction contract was awarded to Grant County contractors led by Morrison and Knudsen in July 1959. Work started the day the contract was signed. 12 tainter gates that hold water back between the piers are as wide as a city lot and as tall as a 6-story building. In 1961, they were the largest gates of this type in the world. The powerhouse contains 10 generating units manufactured by General Electric. Each 87,500 kilowatt generating unit turbine has a 120,000 horsepower rating. 62 million gallons of water flow through the turbines each minute. Starting a new generator took several days. On January 18, 1964, all 10 units at Wanapum went into commercial operation, making Grant County PUD the third largest non-federal producer of hydroelectric power in the United States. As of December 1965, the general contractor recorded a total of 5,768,491 man-hours that had gone into the building of Wanapum Dam.
There's 1,500, 2,000 men working side by side, and you work damned hard. And sometimes you're kind of working against each other, and sometimes you're working in unison. And most times you're working in unison to construct this thing.
On June 4, 1966, Wanapum Dam was dedicated.
When you look at that, that's not just a dam, that's a real piece of engineering. That's a whole block of Class A, Class B, Class C concrete, and massive amounts of steel and wood, all that stuff put together to make that dam. And the months and the hardships and the joys of working together, putting that thing together, it gives you a lot of pride.
Water and power to irrigate crops make it possible for Columbia Basin farmers to produce over $500 million worth of crops annually. It has been almost 100 years since the Petracks and Odegaards, the Overens, Mackenzies, and Johnsons, and many others arrived in the dry, sagebrush and greasewood-covered Columbia Basin. Their struggles remain in what few diaries and photographs are left. The landscape they remember has yielded to their greatest hope, a garden to help feed the world. Those who contributed along the way have helped make a difference for everyone who lives in the Columbia Basin today.